चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरोर्श्रीयुतपदकमलं श्रीगुरुं वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगणरघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं श्रीकृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपादान् सहगणललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च। हे कृष्णा करुणा सिन्धो दीनबन्धो जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिकान्त राधाकान्त नमोऽस्तुते। तप्तकाञ्चन गौराङ्गी राधे वृन्दावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। नमो महावदान्याय कृष्णप्रेमप्रदायिने कृष्णाय कृष्णचैतन्य नामिने गौरत्विषे नमः। पञ्चतत्त्वात्मकं कृष्णं भक्तरूपस्वरूपकं भक्तावतारं भक्ताख्यं नमामि भक्तशक्तिकं। श्रीकृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासदि गौरभक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। जन्माद्यस्य तोऽन्वयादितरतश्चार्थे सुभिज्ञस्वराट् तेने ब्रह्म हृदयादिकवये मुह्यन्ति यत्सूरयः। तेजो वारिमृदां यथा विनिमयो यत्र त्रिसर्गो मृषा धाम्ना स्वेन सदा निरस्तकुहकं सत्यं परं धीमहि। नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरयेत्। Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, 3rd Canto, chapter 29, beginning from verse number 13. Lord Kapila has explained the definition of Bhakti, and he made 4 divisions: Tamasic, Rasic and Sattvic. And then he gave the definition of Nirguna Bhakti. So now in the next verse he is explaining about the devotees, their character, who are following this Bhakti, how do they behave. So he says, Salokya Sarshti Samipya Sarupekattvamapi uta Dhiyamanam Nigranhanti Vinamatsevanam Janaha. Says that my devotees, they do not accept residence in my abode or opulence like my opulence, or living close to me, having a form like me, or merging in me, even if I give it to them, except if it is needed to do service to them. So earlier it was said that in Nirguna Bhakti the devotee has no other desire but to serve. There is no demand, there is no other motive. That's why it was called ahetuki, that without any hetu, and hetu means phalantar abhisandhi rahita, that there is no other intention or reason except service to the Lord. So now these are some of the things which may be attractive. That liberation moksha of course is considered as some other interest. But what about living on the same planet as the Lord? You want to live in the same city where the Lord is living? Or you want to have opulence like Him? Or to have a form? So a devotee does not accept these things. Only if they are helping or assisting in doing the service. That means he will live with the Lord. If he has to do service, then he has to be, not that he wants to live. So there is no intention to enjoy anything personally, independent of service. If service itself entails any of these things, then it cannot be avoided. But not that there is a desire that I want any of these things. So that is, therefore it says, Diyamanam. Not only that they do not desire it themselves, even if I want to give them, they don't accept. Accept seva, Vinamat seva. So it says, Ambudho Gangambaso Gatiriti Drishtanta Vyanjitam Artham Spashtem Ukta Lakshan Bhakti Matam Jananam Niskamatvam Kyamutyena. That earlier it was said that the water of the Ganga flows to the ocean, and that was an example given of the devotee. What is the thinking of a devotee, what he feels in his mind. So now with this example, that example which was to exemplify or to explain the devotees who follow this Nirguna Bhakti. So from that he shows that how they are niskam, or they have no desire at all. Just as the river is not going to the ocean to achieve anything. But there is a great, intense endeavor and desire and effort to reach there without any cause or result to be acquired. So that same thing is here in the case of devotee, and devotee is not interested in anything. So Salokyam Maya Saha Ekasmin Loke Vasa. Salokya means to have residence on the planet of the Lord. So it is natural that you want to live with the person you love. But what is the intention of living there? Not that you just want to enjoy living there, but only if that gives you an opportunity to serve. Otherwise you prefer not to be living there and live wherever you can do the service. So that's why service is more important in Bhakti than even association of the Lord. Usually people think that attaining Lord is the highest goal of life. But here, according to this definition, attaining service is higher than even attaining the Lord. And Sarshti Samaneshwarya. Sarshti means to have the same opulence as the Lord has. Samipyam Nikatvartitvam. Samipya means to be close to Him. The difference between Salokya, living on the same planet, and the Samipya is that you can live on the same planet, you can be far away from Him. So Samipya, of course, includes Salokya, but it is close to Him. And then Sarupya means to have a form like Him. So you resemble Him in appearance, and Ekatvam is Sayujya, to merge in Him. Ut api diyamanam api ne grananti kutastat kamna iti bhava. So they don't accept even if I give them, or even Lord wants to give them, then where is the question of desiring them themselves? Matsevanam vina iti kechit grinanti chet matsevartham eva bhavanti. So matsevanam vina signifies that not without my service, which means that if at all they accept these things only for the sake of service. So the idea is that they don't accept anything without service, whether it is good or bad, up to liberation or power, position, anything. They are very clear. So this is the meaning of Anya Vilasupaswami. Rupa Goswami says that there is absolutely no trace of any desire. This is the meaning of pure devotion. This is actually the meaning of Bhakti. That the idea of anything other than service does not arise. And this is what true love means. That in love there is no demand, there is no expectation. Because love itself is so complete and satisfying that there is no scope to think of anything else. That's why it is said that love is the Ladni and Samvit potency. Means it gives such pleasure to do service to the Lord. Usually people don't want to do service. They feel happy if somebody is serving. In this material world we want to be served. And if we are doing service, then we want to progress, get promoted. Then we are happy. There is one interesting episode which comes to my mind from Prabhupada's biography. Once he was in Japan, and there was some meeting in a hotel. So he was in this conference room and there was one person serving there. And before the meeting started, so there were the names of people who were all, I think this was about printing his books in his meeting, press people, the printing company. So we put the names of different people who come and take their seat. So there was the name of the director of the company and manager and assistant and all that. So before they came, Prabhupada already went and he was sitting and there was one person arranging the chairs and like that. So he asked him that, what is your desire? What would you like in your life? So he put all these cards together, all the name, and then on top of that he put his name. So his desire was that he wants to be on top, not arranging the chairs. So this is what we want, that somebody should serve me. But in spiritual life, serving is the pleasure. Therefore here everything is considered as seva, even taking food is considered as seva. So, not to speak of anything else. So, devotee means he is a servant and all he does is service, and that is his pleasure. So that is actually the constitutional position of the living entity. Why it is giving pleasure? Because the living entity is designed for that. There is nothing else which can give it satisfaction. We can try anything. We can get some momentary pleasures, some temporary satisfaction. But real satisfaction will come only by service. And even in the material world, people gain happiness by doing some voluntary service. You go to some temple, church, or some other place and you serve, it gives you happiness. So you can imagine if you do service to God and personal relationship with Him, how much satisfaction will that give, and then where is the chance to then desire anything else? So soul is completely satisfied. Savai punsham paro dharmo yato bhakti radakshana ahetuki apratihata yayatma samprasinati. So Atma, the self, is samprasinati, completely satisfied, full satisfaction. That's why the devotee does not want anything. This is the meaning of this verse. That the highest thing, whatever it may be, even that there is no desire for that. सएव भक्ति योगाख्या आत्यंतिक उदाहरित येन अतिव्रज्य त्रिगुणम मद भावाय पद. So therefore he says that this indeed is called Bhakti Yoga, the ultimate. And yena trigunam ativrajya, then what will happen, that by this Bhakti Yoga one will transcend the three gunas and mad bhavaya prapadyate. Then one will attain devotion, prema, by acting like this. Otherwise there is no possibility that we can transcend the prakriti gunas, the modes, bondage of matter. So Lord Krishna also he answered this question in Bhagavad Gita. And Arjuna has asked this, Kimachara katham chetam gunanati vartate. How can one transcend these gunas? So Krishna said, Mam chayodya vicharana bhakti yogena sevate. Only by doing bhakti yoga one can go beyond, not otherwise. And mameviya prapadyante maya vitantarante. So bhakti yoga is the only process. This is the only spiritual path, really speaking. All other processes are called spirituality out of confusion. There is no spirituality in them. Because they are all dealing with matter. Using your material body, material mind, material senses and performing activities with that. Whether it is yoga, karma or anything else. So those are all material actions. And the effect is dependent on the cause. If the action is material, then the result is also material. So how it can be spirituality? So only bhakti is spiritual because bhakti is transcendental. And as we read in the previous verse, then the cause of bhakti is also transcendental, which is bhakti itself. It is sadhana bhakti, and then you have bhava bhakti, then you have prema bhakti. So it is transcendental to begin with. Therefore bhakti begins from the liberated platform. On bhakti one is liberated. In fact here it is described that even bhaktiya bhas liberates one. Like Ajamila, he was liberated by nama bhas. Because if one has fixed mind on the Lord, then where is the bondage? And if the mind is not on the Lord, then where is the liberation? Then it will be on something material. No matter whether you make your mind thoughtless or free from the vrittis, chitta vritti, nirodha, you can do all these things. But what will you do with your ahankara? After all, you will remain the doer. Even when you do chitta vritti nirodha, then you have your ahankara. So even to attain Sayujya Mukti or Brahman realization, one has to do bhakti, as we read in chapter 27. One has to meditate on the Lord and then make the mind blank. So only by the grace of bhakti one can get perfection in Jnana Marga or Yoga, not otherwise. So this is to be understood very clearly, because people think that everything is equal. It is very common saying or statement that all paths are equal, right? All roads lead to Rome, and actually all roads are not going to Rome. Those days are gone. All roads are going to Rome. So all paths are not equal, and all religions are not equal. Because there is nothing which is equal to the path of bhakti. There is nothing. There is no other path which equals it. So therefore this is Atyantik Bhakti Yoga. Tasmat Kim Tarhi Bhajante Bhaktereva Param Phalatvat. So then if someone says that why do these people worship if they don't want this, they don't want that? After all, whenever you perform some action, then you have some intention behind it, right? Phalvyapari dhatu. A dhatu, every dhatu, every verb has two things. One is phal and one is vyapar. Means there is some result which will come out of that action, and one is the vyapar, is the activity itself, because every verb involves many other things in it. If you say that I read, then reading also involves other things. You have to open your eyes, you have to look, you have to hold the book. So all these things are involved. So there is, every verb has got many activities within it, plus it will give some result. So if devotees are doing service, then what do they get from it? Why are they doing it? Because if someone is complete, has no desire, then why should one act? We see that whenever they act, somebody is acting because one wants something, there is some lack, something is lacking in me, and to fulfill that lack, fulfill that lacuna, I perform action, because my fulfillment will come through action. So if devotees are acting all the time, like the Ganges water, without any break, and they must be having a big desire, and they don't even stop for a few minutes, right? At least other people, they take break, they work 5 days a week, and they are working 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. So they must have really some big goal to achieve. So therefore it says, Kim Tari Bhajante, and why do they do this? So he says, they do it only for bhakti. The result of bhakti is bhakti itself. Yes, they want, what do they want? They want more service. Service leading to service. So they can never get out of it. That's why it is the ongoing process. Otherwise it will come to an end. In the Gyan Marg, they want liberation. When liberation is achieved, then you give up your practice. In yoga you want samadhi. Once you attain samadhi, then you are not doing asanas or pranayama. Then you give up that. But in case of bhakti, you become perfect and still you do bhakti. Because it doesn't want anything else. Saiva, so he says this is called Bhakti Yoga, Atyantik. Atyante Sarvante Bhava Atyantik. So Atyantik means this is what happens at the end. While you are doing is Bhakti, and the end also Bhakti. Nanu Atyantika Sabdena Sayujya Muchyate Iti. So now the word Atyantik is also used to mean Sayujya Mukti. impersonal realization or merging into Brahman, that is also called Atyantik. So he says, no, here the word Atyantik does not mean that. So, Eva Bhakti Yoga Atyantika. Here the word Atyantik means Bhakti Yoga. Bhakti Yoga Namayam Tatopi Adhikam Phalam. It is even more than that impersonal realization. Ateva Apvarga Shabdena Kvachid Brahmani Nirvana Shabdena Cha Ayam Uchyate. So he says that sometimes the word Apvarga and Nirvana and Atyantika, they also mean Bhakti. Generally these words are used for impersonal liberation. Nirvana, Brahma Nirvana, Uchyate, or Apvarga. So he gives some quotations for that. Yaduktam Panchami, there is a quotation from 5th Canto, 19th chapter, 19th verse. Apvargascha bhavati yoso bhagavati animit bhakti yoga lakshana. So there the word apvarga, he says, by this one attains apvarga, and what is apvarga? So he says, animitta bhakti yoga lakshana. Doing service to the Lord Bhagavati without any nimitta, without any cause. Saptmecha adhokshaj alambhamiya ityadav tad brahma nirvana sukham vidurdha. And then in the 7th canto, Prahlad is also speaking. Adhokshaj alambham iham subhatmana sharirane sansviti chakra shatana tad brahma nirvana sukham vidurbudha tato yajadha hudi hudishwana. So he says that one attains adhokshaj and becomes free of all ashubha, and this destroys the cycle of birth and death, and one attains nirvana sukha. So here the word nirvana does not mean impersonal liberation, but it means bhakti yoga, because it says tato bhajadvam hridaya hridaya. Therefore you should worship the Lord of heart within your heart to attain this bhakti. And when it says Hare Ekantaki Bhakti Moksha Mahur Manishni iti Puranantam. Some other Purana, he does not mention the name, says that one pointed devotion to Lord Hari Krishna, that is called moksha by the learned people. So usually the word moksha, mukti, nirvana, apvarga, kavalya, they are popularly used by impersonalists for impersonal liberation. But this does not mean that that is the only meaning of these words. So he is quoting scriptures to show that these words are also used for bhakti. And bhakti rasya bhajanam tadiya matra upadhi narasina musmin manakalpanam etad evacha neskarmamiti Gopal Tapni Srutis. Then he quotes Gopal Tapni Upanishad, where the word neskarmya, which is another word used by impersonalist for liberation, where the word neskarmya is also defined as bhakti. So he says that bhakti means bhajan, service. And what is that? Iha umutra upadhi narasina amasmin manakalpana. That to give up any desire to achieve anything here in the material world or after death, and then fix one's mind in the Lord, that is called bhakti, and that is called neskarmya. So why these words neskarmya, kavalya, moksha, apvarga, etc. are used for bhakti also? Because whatever is the meaning of these words, that is automatically also applicable to bhakti. Because neskarmya means becoming free from karma or bondage of karma. So bhakti also does that, to become free from karma. Kavalya means pure or only, so that is bhakti is most pure. Moksha means liberation, bhakti also liberates you. So for that reason, these words also mean bhakti. Nanu Tirgunmayat bandhat moksha eva param phalam prasiddham. So now another doubt is raised. Say that we have heard, and it is very popularly known, that when one becomes free from the bondage of three gunas, sattva, rajas, tamas, then one attains moksha as the supreme result. So why you are talking about bhakti now? So he says, Satyam tattu bhaktau anusangikam nitya. So he says, yes, this is true, that if you go beyond the three gunas, you will get liberation. But he says that in bhakti, you get that as a side effect. So if you buy some product, then some packing also comes with it. So like that, the liberation comes naturally. You don't have to buy it separately. So no need to make an independent endeavor for that. Yena bhakti yogena ativrajya atikramya ullangheti yav. So that's why the verse said that yena ativrajya trigunam mad bhavaya kalpate. By this bhakti, one will transcend the three gunas, and then one will attain my bhava. So Maccharan Ashraya Matranaiva Trigunatmak Sansar Sindhor Bospadaya Manatve Jate Tad Ulanghanam Anusandhanam Vinayeva Bhavati. Says that one who takes shelter of my feet, then this material world, which is compared to an ocean of three gunas, it becomes like the water, hoof print of a cow. If cow is walking, it makes a little depression on earth and some water is in that. Then what is the difficulty in crossing it? If you are walking, you don't make an effort to cross this. But if you have to cross the material ocean, if you have to go beyond the ocean, you need a ship or you need a plane to go beyond. So he said that bhakti, when you take shelter of the Lord's feet, then it is Gospadaya, and it becomes like small, little, few milliliter water. So don't need any effort to cross. Mad bhavaya mad vishya prema. And then what do you attain actually? He says mad bhavaya upapadite. And then you attain love for me. So that is the outcome of bhakti, that one gets prema, which is the ultimate fruit, which we read yesterday also. So up till now he described what is bhakti. And basically two divisions he made, Saguna Bhakti, Nirguna Bhakti. And then he explained what is Nirguna or pure devotion and the greatness of pure devotion. Now he gives practical application or how to execute it practically, how to begin it. What is that we have to actually do in our life. So some 16 activities he prescribes, which we can execute. So he says, Nisevitena nimittena swadharmena mahiyasa kriya yogena sastena nati himsena nityasah madhyasanya darshan sparsha puja stutya vivandanaihi bhutesu mad bhavanaya sattvena sangamena cha. Mehtam bahumanena deenanam anukampaya metra chaivatmatulyesu yamena niyamena cha adhyatmik anusravanat nama sankirtanat cha me आर्जवेनार्य संगेन निरहं क्रियया तथा मद्धर्मणो गुणैरेतैः परिसंशुद्ध आशय पुरुषस्यंज साम्येति सुतमात्रगुणं हिमाम्. So now he describes, says that one should perform the duties which have been followed by great saintly people. Mahiyasa swadharmena animittena, without any desire, and kriya yogena sastena, performing one's duties like that, and not engaging in violent act. So one performs kriya yoga na ati himshena. He says not too much violent, because it is not possible to live life without violence. You have to at least get some fruits, flowers, leaves, some wood you eat in the winter, right? So you may have to cut some trees to keep yourself warm. So some hinsa is to be done, but not too much hinsa. That you have to kill a goat or a chicken. That is not needed. Even fish. So he says nati himsena nityasa. And then madhyasanya darshanadam. So he says that always have darshan of my form and sparsha, to touch, worship, pray, stuti, vandana, pay obeisances, and seeing my presence in all the living beings. Bhutesu mad bhavanaya sattvena asangamena. So to see that I am present in all beings. The Lord is present everywhere. So this way you will become free from envy and hatred. And Mehtam Bahumanene, to give respect to holy people. And Dina Nam Anukampa, to be compassionate on those who are Dina, or translation from Dina.
Unfortunate, you can say.
So who are not well-to-do. And Maitreya Chaiva Atmatulya, to make friendship those who are equal to you. So those who are superior to you, you give them respect. Those who are lower than you, you be compassionate on them. Those who are equal to you, make friendship with them. But see Lord in every one of them. Although we have to see Lord in everyone, still we treat not just the same. And Yamena Niyamena cha, and follow the Yama and Niyama. Yama and Niyama, 5 Yama and 5 Niyama. Ahimsa Satya Asteya Brahmacharya Parigrahayam. And so Santos Tapas Swadhyaya Ishwar Pranidhanani Niyama. So to follow all this. And Adhyatmik Anusharam, hearing the devotional literature. It is very important to hear. And Nam Sankirtan. See, Nam Sankirtan is mentioned there. To do kirtan of the names of the Lord. Hare Krishna. It's prescribed here by Lord. Arjavena Arya Sangena, and to be simple hearted. Arjava means straightforward, no cheating propensity, not deceiving others. And Arya Sangha, to associate with the Aryas. So you can go to Germany because Arya came from there, right? Where is the origin of Aryans? Lithuania or Germany?
It's supposed to be the Caucasian countries.
So you have to do little research where the Aryans are, and then you have to go there, associate with them, Arya Sangha.
You have to consult Advaita Prabhu.
There are
The origins.
240 theories about Aryans, from where they came. So, and Niraham Kriya Tatha, and to perform activities without the ego of doership, that I am the doer, I did this. So to be humble, we have to act, but don't become proud of that. Niraham Kriya does not mean that you do nothing, but do without the ego of doership. So mad dharmo gunai rehtai parisansuddha ashaya. So he says that by performing all these activities, these are called Bhagavad Dharma or devotional characteristics, then he says that the person's heart will become purified. Parisansuddha ashaya. And purushasya anjasamyeti srutmatra gunam. So then the person's mind, he will become fixed in me simply by hearing. Earlier, remember, he said that mad guna shruti matrena, that simply by hearing my guna, then the mind, manogati ravichinna, the mind flows towards the Lord. Mad guna shruti matrena. So this will happen only when our heart has been purified. That is the result of... So this is the sadhana bhakti. This is the devotional practice. These activities we practice, then our heart becomes purified, because now our mind is not attracted to the Lord. When the heart will become purified, then as soon as you hear about the Lord, then the mind becomes attracted to Him. So therefore he says that Sruta Matra Gunam Himam. Says this is the quality, this is actually the quality of Lord, that if you hear about Him, then your mind becomes attracted to Him. If your mind is clean, if is there. Just as in case of Sukadeva Goswami, it is described here in Bhagavatam that Sukadeva Goswami, after birth, he left home because he was some very special person. As soon as he was born, he grew up. He did not have to grow slowly. He immediately became a young fellow because he stayed in the womb for a long time. 12 years or 16 years? 14? So whatever, 14, 15, 16 years, he was staying in the womb of his mother. So and when he took birth, then he was immediately like 14-year-old. Usually now, psychologists, they have discovered that the human child is actually premature birth. The child is born after 9 or 10 months. It should actually take birth after 1.5 years. That's why the human baby is the most vulnerable. If you see the calf is born to the cow, then he immediately stands up, he is drinking milk, then he is running in 15-20 minutes. Doesn't need anybody's care. But if the human baby is not taken care, he will die. So this is premature. In any other species of life, they are born, then they can exist. So Sukadeva Goswami was like that. When he was born, he was a mature person. He did not depend on anything. Like calf, he immediately stood up. Not only stood up, he was running. So he knew everything and he left home. He took sannyas immediately. Yam pravrajam tamanupetam peta krityam Dvaipayano virakatar ajuhaya Pretitam metaya tarvo vineti tam sarvabhuti hridayam manimanutos. So he was immediately a parivrajacharya. He was immediately sannyasi. Without somebody giving him sannyas, he took himself. Self-proclaimed sannyas. Sent the parampara. So he was going and his father was calling him because his father was a great scholar who wrote the Vedas, Puranas, and every father wants that if I have some property, I want to give it to my son. If somebody is a businessman, he wants to give his business to his son, the only son. So Vyasadeva also wanted to give all his Vedic knowledge to his son, but the son was walking away. And he was saying, what is this you are doing? At least have a sacred thread so that you can study the Vedas. He said, Anupetam. Without any sacred thread, without Upavit samskara, he left. But later on, he heard Bhagavatam, and then his heart was captivated. He says, Grihita Cheta Rajarsa. This is the quality of the Lord. Why? Because his heart was clean. He has no desires. So when heart becomes clean, then you will realize the beauty of Krishna. Why he is called Krishna. When our hearts are impure, then we don't realize. So just like if there is dry grass and you put one matchstick, it will burn immediately. Right? But if it is wet or it is green grass, then you can spoil the whole matchbox. Only smoke will come out, which will spoil your eyes. So we have to prepare ourselves. So that's why it is said that only one name can give you love. Only one name can give you everything. But we are doing so many names, we don't feel anything because we are completely green grass. We bring out smoke. So we have to become free from the desires. We have many other desires. When all those desires are removed, what is the meaning of purity of heart? Purity of heart means this only. It is not that you have to rub yourself with some soap. Purity means not to have any other desires. Now our hearts are full of desires. We have a big warehouse of desires inside. And even we are even confused. We may even have contradictory desires. You desire one thing and then there is another desire which is just opposite of that. So when there will be only one desire, as I was saying yesterday, that only one desire, one pointed, tasmadekena mansa bhagavan satvatam pati srotavya kirtitavya dheya pujyasya nitya. That one pointed, mind fixed only on one thing, that we want to hear, meditate, serve Krishna bas. Then just by hearing, we will become attracted. So it happened to Parikshit Maharaj also. He heard Bhagavatam and became perfect by hearing. Because he gave up everything. He was a king. He renounced, he went, sat on the bank of Ganga river. So he just heard. So this hearing is very powerful. As yesterday commentary, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur was saying that Nirguna Sravanadi Bhakti Yoga. To hear, then we get purified. So that's why he's doing this kirtan. It's also purifying. So these are various steps. They are given, these are practical things, how to conduct ourselves in our daily life so that we become purified and qualified for the Atyantik Bhakti Yoga which is being described here. So Sri Vishwanath Chakravarti says that Asya Bhakter Angani Aha. That now the limbs of bhakti are being described. Nisevitascha sau anilimitta rupascha. So we have to do this, we have to execute it, but it should be executed without any motive. Tena purva purvahi suddha bhakte nisevito angikrito yasvadharmaste. So what do we have to do? This words here, nisevitena nimittena swakarmena mahiyasa. So here swakarma means mahiyasa means great people. So the activities which have been done by great devotees, we do those activities. That is our dharma, that's what it means. That's how he comments it. Others have commented that you perform your swadharma. But that is not bhakti. So he says that is the swadharma. Such a smriti shastrokta pramani mrit jaladibhir deha vastra patradi dravya suddhi vidhi rupo nirmantrak eva gaya tena mahiyasa archanadi bhakti upyogitvat prasastena. So he says, what are these activities? He says, these are the activities that you clean your body, you take bath, as has been described in the scriptures, and clean utensils, pots, and nirmantrakaya, without chanting any of these mantras. There are also mantras for everything. So in Karma Kanda, there are mantras for taking bath also. Mantra for every activity. So it says nirmantrakaya geya tena mahiyasa. And then you engage in the activities of worship of the Lord, archan, bhakti adi, upyogitvat. So these activities of taking bath, etc., waking up in the morning, these are useful for engaging in the service of the Lord, in the worship of the Lord. So this is what Swadharma means here. Vyakhyantere matkrite tyakta karmani iti maya dishtanapi swakan dharman santyajiti bhagavadukti virodha. So he says that the other explanation is that Swadharma being described here as dharma according to one's varna and ashrama. So he says if you do that, then it does not match. Because Lord Krishna, Kapila Dev himself says, Maya ananyena bhavina bhaktim kurvanti ye dridam matkrita tyakta karmani tyakta swajana bandhava. That those who are doing bhakti to me with ananya bhav, without any other motive, then they give up their prescribed duties which are according to the varna and ashrama, and they give up swajan bandhava, all their attachments. So that explanation will contradict this. And then Krishna has also said in 11th Canto, Agya eva gunan dosam maya adhisthanapi swakan dharman santajya sarvam Bhajed Mam Sachuttam, that one who worships me by giving up one's dharma after knowing their good qualities and their defects, even these dharmas which are instructed by me only, then he says such a person is the Uttam Bhakta. So here he is talking about Uttama Bhakti. He is not talking about Karma Mishra Bhakti or anything. That you can perform your prescribed duties and so on. So because here the topic is of Nirguna Bhakti, therefore that explanation is not appropriate. Bhagavad Ukti Virodha Tatha Atra Nishevit Padasya Vayartham च स्यात्. And he said that the word Nishevita also will become useless. Kriya Yogena. What is the meaning of Kriya Yoga here? It says Pancharatra Diyukt Puja Prakarana. So in Pancharatra, as is Pancharatra, now is Pancharatra, there is a description how to do worship of the Lord. That is, this worship is called Kriya Yoga. There is also Kriya Yoga word used in the Yoga Sutra. Tapaswadhyaya Ishwar Pranadhana Kriya Yoga. In the second part of first sutra. So that is not the Kriya Yoga here. Here Kriya Yoga means worship of the Lord as given in the Pancharatra. So ati durvar durlanga suksham jeev hinsa nasak patra mool phal adi trotanado api na shatiriti gyapita. So he says that Pancharatra adi puja prakarena shastena uttam desadi mata nati hinsrena. So now he gives the meaning of nati hinsrena, not being too much violent. Ati hinsa rahitena. So he says, what is the meaning of the word ati? Ati means excessive or too much, extra. So what does it mean? Too much violence, not doing too much violence or extra violence or excessive violence. So he says, Bhagavan Mandir Marjan Lepan Tadarth Annadi Vivid Naivedya Sadhanadishu Ati Durvar Durlaksha Suksham Jeev Hinsan Sak Patra Moola Faladi Trotna Lavpai Nakshatiriti Gyapta. Says when you are worshipping the Lord, you have to clean the temple, or you have to whitewash, paint, or you have to prepare food for offering. So while doing this, you cannot avoid killing some very small living entities, maybe some ants, mosquitoes, or some spiders, or even some other things which may not be even visible to our eyes. So it says Sukshma Jeev, Durlaksha Sukshma, invisible. And there are many things which we don't see and they are existing. Bacteria. So they may be killed in this process. And then you have to get some vegetables, fruits, flowers, leaves for offering. So when you pick them up, that is also hinsa, trotanada. So he says that there is nothing wrong in that. That is not considered as excessive violence. So that much is allowed. And sattvena dharyena, sattva means being patient, not becoming impatient. I'm doing this for so long, what happened? Nothing happened. And asangena dussanga tyagena. Asanga means giving up bad association. We should not associate with people who are antagonistic to devotional service. Otherwise that will also become a blockage. So this is an explanation and thus we will do in the next class. So now for 1 week I will be busy with some other program. There will be no class. We have class on 9th. If there is any question.
Well, I have a question about this, what you talked about in the beginning of the class, that the devotee desires only service. He doesn't even desire Krishna. But service is only possible when there is Krishna. Without a Krishna, seva in itself has no meaning.
Yes.
So how does this, how do you correlate this? How do you, I mean, Krishna actually gives the desire for bhakti, right?
Yes.
So you cannot really separate these two things, Krishna and seva.
Well, you can separate in the sense that you want to be with Krishna and not do service. You just like to be with him.
This is not really possible, is it? But in a Shanta rasa way.
Yeah, it's not really possible. Nobody is like that, but the possibility is shown. Even if it is not completely possible, maybe some possibility is there that you want to do some service and also some desire just to be without service.
So that would be considered an impurity?
Yes, that will be considered impurity. As in case of, it is shown in case of Uddhava, that he was standing next to Krishna and he was doing his chamala. And then he manifested symptoms of ecstasy. And then he is not able to do this service. So then he was criticizing these ecstatic symptoms. And then becoming an obstacle in service. So that ecstatic symptom is also some kind of pleasure. Obviously it happens out of happiness. But if that happiness also becomes an obstacle to your service, then you don't want it. So similarly, you may feel happy being with Krishna, but if that is not for the sake of service, then you don't want that. Or suppose Krishna is pleased to be away with you, not in your association, then he is happy, the devotee is happy to be.
With this Kriya Yoga, this is a very kind of stretched challenge. So you just said that deity worship, Archana is Kriya Yoga, so how do I know that I am not doing Kriya Yoga but Bhakti Yoga?
No, Kriya Yoga is just, Kriya Yoga is part of Bhakti Yoga. It's not something different. Just one word used. Just like you have hearing, chanting, there are specific parts of bhakti. So Kriya Yoga is part of bhakti.
Like Maharaj said to me once, counting one's japa, one's rounds, is Kriya Yoga. And
I don't know what you mean by that.
because he's always being asked how many rounds to. So he said this is Kriya Yoga, counting one's japa.
I don't know what he means. Maybe he has some other meaning of Kriya.
So from this I
The
got
word
it.
Kriya Yoga has different meanings. So he's probably using it in some other sense, obviously not in the sense of bhakti.
So then in the let's say on the yoga marga, that would be because there also japa is prescribed, so then this would be Kriya Yoga.
Well, they have a specific definition of Kriya Yoga there. Then it's Tapa, Swadhyaya and Iswar Pranidhana. These three activities are called Kriya Yoga. It is defined there. So it's a very technical term. But Kriya Yoga is also used by Yogananda Paramahansa. He has some specific exercises which he calls as Kriya Yoga.
It's sometimes quite confusing what is.
Well, in our case, it has been made clear that it is part of Bhakti Yoga.
Also, one more question maybe. It's practically impossible for a person in the world to perform all these prescribed activities and avoid all this, the bad association and all these kind of things, what is it called, the niyamas. Because you just have to, by living in the world, you just have to, there are so many disturbances that come to your mind. And you have to associate with so many things that are detrimental to bhakti.
Yeah, so association here means that you don't relish that. If it is happening because you are doing something, it's unavoidable. But not that you consciously want that association, you look for it. And even if when you get it without asking for it, you relish it. So that's what we have to say. Basically, we are not interested in it.
So that falls under the category of tolerance? Or?
Yes. Then it will not influence you, it will not pollute you. If you give importance to it, you relish that association, you like it, then obviously it will become a deviation and it will give you more desires. You want to be like them. They are behaving like this, they are dressed like this, they are talking like this, they are eating like this. And you want to be also one of them. So you perform your business, and in the course of executing your business you have to meet so many people, you will become influenced by them. That is the meaning. So association means when you become influenced. Because we have to live in this world, where can we go?
Because yesterday you mentioned that bhakti is synchronizing everything.
Yes.
So even these influences or detrimental situations do not really become an obstacle.
Yeah, they don't become obstacle because you are performing your duty, your goal is, you are fixed in your goal. And to execute your duty or to reach your goal, you have to go through this process, and they are not detrimental. You make use of them.
That's actually very practical.
Yeah, that is practical. Otherwise you become like a fanatic. And then how do you actually exist in this world? Especially now in the olden days, okay, there was a society which supported such people. You could live like a recluse and you can get food and support. But now in the modern society, it's not so supportive. And it is also better that you remain independent of support from the people who do not appreciate it. You want to say something?
No, just in regard to Ashwata's first question, we find many sometimes hair-splitting distinctions, about how to do the worship, and for example, if you're worshipping, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says, if you're worshipping Radha Krishna, but you do it with Aishvarya Bhav, then you become one of the servants of the Mahishis, and all these, like fine details And but it seems that all of these distinctions are really just for the sadhakas.
Yeah, because once you attain bhav, then you go with the bhav. See, the whole idea is why Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur is saying that he's speaking from pure, unadulterated bhakti point of view. So many of these things, like why did he say nirmantrakaya? Because actually there are mantras for taking bath. You put water, call all the rivers, Ganga Chaya, Yamuna Chaya, Godavari, Saraswati, Narmada, Kavari, Sindhu, Jalasmin, Sannidhin, Guru. So you chant that mantra, then how you have to pour the water, then cleaning, then we put on the coping, there is a mantra for putting coping also. So you go on doing this, and then it becomes like a ritual. Then where you have to place your Panchpatra, then there is a mantra for that. And you have to place, how all this, I'm sure you know more than me about all this. You have to place your conch here, and you have to place your Panchpatra here, and then you do your Achman like this, and then you do this. And so what happens then? Lord is seeing all this and he's saying, what is this guy doing? Does he want to serve me or he wants to make a show of all this? So therefore, cleaning and all this is necessary, but then you need to get into this. And then in the meantime, you probably lose track of thinking of Krishna. So that is the purpose.
Yeah, the original idea, of bringing the mantra to every little tiny thing that you're doing is to bring awareness.
To bring your consciousness. Otherwise your mind is wandering here and there. So mantra is actually to catch your mind. But then you don't just become fixed on the mantra only, and you go beyond that.
You can make it into a ritual and another duty. And
people do that, and actually it looks very fancy. And you do it in front of others, they are very much impressed. Wow, you do it simply, says this guy doesn't know how to do puja. And then he really knows. He does puja so pakka. So then this will give you another ego, I'm a pujari. I know how to do. And people come to you to learn, and then you flaunt your ego around. So that is not the purpose of bhakti. Tie cloth on your head like this to look very special.